NCAA college basketball for Thursday. We're going to look at 5 totals today in college basketball. So far, we're 500 on the year on our records. Let's see if we can pick something up today. First, we're just going to jump right in. We got a lot to cover. Northern Iowa, Arizona State. I'm going to go under the 148. I just think that's too much, really, with Northern Iowa. They're one of the slowest teams in the country. Ben Jacobson, excellent basketball coach, very good on the defensive end. Last year, they were a 346 in adjusted tempo. They just do not put up a lot of shots. They defend really well. I think they're going to be able to do that against Arizona State. Now, Arizona State, they've come to this game 2 wins. Bobby Hurley, good coach overall, former Duke point guard, if you all remember that. So far, they've shot 60% on their 2-point shots in their first 2 games versus Portland and Cal Poly. They're not going to be able to do that again tonight against a Northern Iowa team. That's just not going to happen. Now, Northern Iowa, they played a non-Division I team, and they also shot 60% on their 2-point shots. I don't think that's going to happen against an Arizona State team that's well coached by Bobby Hurley. I think he's done an okay job. He finally has a good class coming in as well, so look out for Arizona State maybe next year or the year after. This year, they're still a little bit young. So overall, 148, I think it's a bit too high on this one, so I'm going to go under the total Northern Iowa and Arizona State. Next one up, we got is Providence, Ohio State. Again, another underplay. I'm going to go under the 143. There is no Chris Dunn this year, of course, for Providence, all-world last year. But they were tough on the defensive end in the Big East. Ed Cooley's done a nice job with them. They ranked 3rd last year in scoring defense in the Big East. Now, versus Vermont, they allowed just 58 points. And last year, when we look at their efficiency, they were one of the most efficient teams on the defensive end in the nation. They really got, stops per possession. Very, very good on the defensive side. And they got a few guys back. They should be good enough to keep Ohio State to a reasonable number. This actually looks low for a Thad Matta team in Ohio State, 143, who's in the past who's wanted to get up and down the floor. But if you looked at Thad Matta the last couple of years, they're focusing a lot more defense. Their defense has picked them up on that side of the ball, and I think it's going to be able to do so tonight against Providence. I don't see this getting up and down the floor. Ohio State, good core of veterans back. They were 4th in the Big Ten in points allowed last season. In points per possession last season. So that's a nice defensive statistics. They only got up 47 attempts versus Navy, that's not very many, and just 56 versus North Carolina Central. Last year in the Big Ten, they ranked 10th in scoring offense. So, this is Ed Cooley, Thad Matta, 2 guys, again, like the earlier one with Northern Iowa and Ben Jacobson, where I just think the defensive aspect is going to go ahead and keep us under this total. Next one up, we're going the other way. Pittsburgh and SMU, I'm going over the 148. Now, Kevin Stallings, he comes over from Vanderbilt to Pittsburgh, taking over Jamie Dixon, who moved on surprisingly to TCU. That was a little bit, but that's his alma mater if you want to, research that. But Kevin Stallings, he's a very balanced coach, actually. He's got a winning record, good pedigree. Last year in the SEC, Vanderbilt, they were 4th in scoring offense, and they were 3rd in points per possession in the SEC. In their matchup this year already for Pittsburgh, he's got a few guys back for Pittsburgh. They're going to be decent. They'll be okay. ACC, it's going to be a rough go for him probably, unless he gets some horses here the next few years. They allowed Gardner Webb to get up 73 attempts while they got up 65 in one of their earlier matchups. That's some really good tempo. Now, SMU, they got some horses back. Head coach Tim Jankovic, he took over for Larry Brown, but he was there last year as well. He's an up-tempo coach, and he's been quoted as saying he really wants this SMU team to go and attack. Like, that's his mentality. I think they're going to, run up-tempo and do that. So in their last game against Eastern Michigan, they had 5 guys in double figures, and it just seems like this SMU team, they're going to get up and down the floor. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take a shot here with over the 148. Seems kind of big. You think Pittsburgh, more of a defensive-minded team, but with Kevin Stallings, I think they're going to put up some points, and we're going to see a little bit of a track meet here. So I'm going to go ahead and take over in that matchup. Next one we got 2 more left. We got Marquette and Michigan. This one was hard for me. Really interesting matchup. 2 teams that really like to shoot the 3, though. So here's the issue. It's pretty simple. If the 3s drop, yeah, they're going to go over the total. If they don't, then they won't. But they're going to put them up, that's for sure. Marquette and Michigan love to shoot the 3-pointer. And Marquette, they are loaded this year. Do not sleep on Steve Wojnarowski's team, another point guard from Duke, taking over Marquette. We had them over the total in one of their earlier games. They're really pushing the tempo. They got up 74 shots versus Vanderbilt, and then they got just 57 up over Howard, but that was a blowout, so they probably didn't need to, go crazy in that one, at least as far as how many attempts they needed to get up, a little more ball control. The game was well over, by going into the second half, it was over. So they have a lot of good returners. Marquette, I've already mentioned this, and I think they can make some noise this year. I really do. So far in their first 2 games of the year, they put up over 53 pointers. So again, if they drop, they're going to be fine, and they've been making them at a pretty good clip. Michigan, let's talk about them. John Beilein, of course, one of the best offensive coaches in the game, but he also is a good defensive coach. He's a great coach overall. They've always been really efficient offensively. They ranked fourth in points per possession in the Big Ten last season. He's got a few guys back. They did lose a decent core as well, though. But still, we look at, they put up 76 versus Howard and 77 versus Indiana Purdue. So that's a team right now that is putting up quite a few shots. That's a lot of attempts. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm back over the total. It seems like Michigan, they're going to be happy. I believe Marquette's going to want to push tempo, and I think Michigan's going to go with them, and I think they're both going to be able to score. So I'm going to go over the 149 in that matchup. Last one up, we got a Seton Hall and Iowa. Fran McCaffrey from Iowa. I love that guy because, man, they go really fast. He loves to get up and down the floor, and I'm going to go over this big total of 156.5. Seton Hall, Kevin Willard is one of the most underrated coaches in the game. He did a great job last year for Seton Hall, and they have a good core of returners. They lost, I forgot the player's name, but really, their star last year, he opted out, but they still have a really good core back. They started out the year putting up 91 and 82 points, of course, versus lower competition. So they're putting up some points versus higher tempo teams. Last year, when they played teams that could score, they went ahead and they scored with them, putting up over 150 points when they faced teams like Butler, Creighton, and Xavier, all up-tempo teams. Iowa, they're as up-tempo as it gets. They've been consistently one of the most up-tempo teams under his tenure. He's done a great job at Iowa over the last few seasons. It's going to be hard for him to do it this year because he's got Peter Jock, but after that, or Peter Joke, excuse me. I might be saying that wrong. But if I'm saying that wrong, please forgive me. I know who he is. He's a stud, and he did return this year. He looked at his NBA option, but he's a senior and he did come back. I think it's Joke, but I'm going to go ahead. I'll double check that. If I'm wrong, please forgive me. For so far this year, they put up 91 and then 116 points, of course, versus lesser competition in their first 2 games. And that's Fran McCaffrey. Seton Hall, they're loaded. I think Iowa's going to go fast. This should get over that 156.5. This will be a real fun one to watch. So those are our 5 NCAA basketball plays. Let's go ahead and recap. We got Northern Iowa, Arizona State under the 148, Providence, Ohio State under the 143, Pittsburgh, SMU over 148, Marquette, Michigan over the 149, and finally in a track meet, Seton Hall, Iowa over the 156.5. Those are my 5 NCAA basketball plays on the total line, and I wish you luck on your picks today.